Well, my name is Susan, and I'm here with Diversity Magazine, and we are doing some interviews for council members, and I shall let you introduce yourself.
My name is Justin Draper. I am running in Ward 4, which is the northeast corner of Edmonton. It's everything north of the Yellowhead and east of 66th Street. It's the community I grew up in. I've lived there for just over 20 years. I feel personally that's important when you're wanting to represent a community. You have to know how it's developed in the past when making decisions, how it's developing going forward. I've lived in the area almost my whole life. I have a Bachelor's of Arts from University of Alberta. I'm a recent university graduate, and I'm excited to get involved in politics.
That's exciting. So tell me, why are you running?
Well, first of all, like I said, I've grown up in my community, and I've seen a lot of the opportunities. A lot of people say the Northeast is kind of forgotten about at the city level. I don't think that's necessarily the case. As much as there's a lot of opportunity at the Northeast that isn't necessarily being taken advantage of as much as it could and I think should be. There's a lot of population growth happening in Edmonton, and a lot of that's happening in the Northeast. There's a lot of business growth happening in the Northeast, and now we kind of have this opportunity to look at how Ward 4 is developing, how the people in Ward 4 at the community level are kind of growing, and some really strong communities. How can we support the people that are here today, and how can we look at the opportunity that's presented in Ward 4 and prepare for the people that are going to be living in our city, not just tomorrow, not just a year from now, but in the long term, 5, 10, 20 years from now.
So what is your platform? What are the main things that you would like to be focused on?
Sure. One thing that I actually was really passionate about going into this was having a platform. It's important to know when you're voting for a candidate who the person is, what are their values, what is their experiences, and that's half of it. And then the other half is their platform. What are their focuses going to be? What are their priorities? What is the platform? So my platform touches on many things, ranging from transit development, promoting parks and green spaces, poverty reduction, but it's all under this banner of prioritizing long-term development in the Northeast. So making sure that the people living in the communities of the Northeast today have the resources they need to succeed, and that comes in a lot of different ways, from working with other levels of government to make sure that we have schools, making sure that we have parks and green spaces, making sure that basically everything, the infrastructure development is another big one, making sure that whatever the community needs to succeed today is in place, and that we're thinking about the people that are going to be here in the future, that we're preparing for a growing community, that we're taking into account the needs of the community in the long term, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. I want especially in the Northeast, but all across the city, Edmonton is a growing city, and I want us to be prepared for what we're growing into, and I want us to have the resources to support people both today and in the long term.
Okay, so just picking two of the points that you put,
Sure.
What are some challenges you feel that you see in the transit area and then in the poverty area?
I think those two, and in most kind of things in general when it comes to council, the problem is in allocating scarce resources. There's everybody wants different things, be it transit development over here or infrastructure redevelopment over there, but there's only so much money. We can either raise taxes, which then that comes.
No one likes
raising taxes. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to raise taxes, and when it comes with improved quality of service or getting that it's going towards something that's useful, then there's that. But the other option is taking from one area and allocating that resource to another area. So the role of council is really to figure out where time, money is going to be allocated and where it needs to be allocated at the present time. So I'm making the argument that right now the best place to allocate those funding would be in investing in the people in the communities of Northeast Edmonton, and that doesn't necessarily mean that forever the Northeast is the only spot that we're going to invest in, and that's no money should go anywhere else in the city. Like we saw, for example, in the downtown, there was recently some money invested into downtown revitalization and Ice District and with the new Rogers Place. And that was, somewhat of a contentious issue, but we're seeing now kind of a revitalization of downtown. You're seeing some local economic activity. You're seeing more people using the services there. So great, we've invested in downtown. now I think it's, now it's time for the Northeast to get some love from council, and with infrastructure developments, that kind of thing is very much specifically a Northeast Edmonton issue. I mean, everywhere is going to ask for more money for infrastructure, but I think that's something that we can really target for the Northeast. Transit is another one. You mentioned transit. We've actually had a few bus routes for communities that was one of their only forms of transportation cut recently. And I think transit has a lot of benefits. Making sure that people have the ability to get around our city. People who may not have access to a personal vehicle, or people that it's just not feasible for them to have a personal vehicle. Public transit is a great option for them. So making sure that the people who need access to transit have that access. Poverty is an issue that I think citywide. We need a dedicated approach. Ward 4 has poverty, Ward 4 has homelessness, but so do other areas of the city. And I think that a united front from council saying that this is something that we are, passionate about targeting. This is something that we can target, and this is something we're willing to allocate resources for. I think that's what's needed.
That's a great answer. Okay, so those are my main points I wanted to hit, so I'm going to give it to you. And
Sure.
Is there anything that you want to say or you want to share?
I think another reason that I'm running is I feel that government works best when it looks like the people that elect it. So, and that comes in a few different ways. Maybe in ideas, making sure that there's a balance of different ideologies represented, but also just in looking at government's age, gender, racial or ethnic background. I feel that government works best when it looks like the people that it represents, and not only is that just an idea of fairness. You don't want to exclude someone just because of the way they look, but you actually get a better government when more ideas are included. You get a better outcome when you are listening to every single idea at the table. When you're ignoring ideas just because of who said them, then that could possibly be the best idea, and we're not having an effective government if those ideas aren't present. So. There are only 12 seats on council, plus the mayor. Right now, there's certainly a lot of room for improvement in making council look like the city of Edmonton. But you're never going to get, we could have every single person in Edmonton sitting on council. That would be the only way to make it look 100% like every single, Edmontonian. So I think that the city councilor elected by their community really needs to be not just a voice for the people that elected them, but a venue for those people to have their voice represented. One councillor represents their whole area, and that area could have older communities, newer communities. It could have all levels of socioeconomic backgrounds. It could have all levels of racial or ethnic backgrounds, and that one councillor needs to be able to sit down at the table with all walks of life, and not just listen, but bring that voice to council. And that's where I feel I could really kind of shine, with the ability of not just having my platform and my values and bringing those to council, but listening to people that I don't necessarily always agree with, or listening to people that aren't necessarily always represented, and figuring out a common ground, figuring out a almost a consensus of what to bring to council.
Thank you so much, Justin.
Thank you so much for having me today.